China does want to go global. It wants to project out of Asia.
As a tit-for-tat trade spat between the United States and China continues, former Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Admiral Michael Mullen called Beijing a growing giant, telling VOA's Greta Van Susteren its growth is key to how the world is shaped.
How China grows and what our relationship is long-term is really critical. If it's constructive, if we can have a constructive relationship with them, then I think that's good for the world. If it's destructive, then I think it's really bad for the world. And that's what we've got to sort out. I actually believe that in this century, the most important bilateral relationship globally is the one between the U.S. and China.
The widely contested waters of the South China Sea remain in dispute, with countries like Japan and the Philippines looking to the U.S. for help in resisting maritime expansion by China. Daniel Twining, who previously advised Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice on foreign policy, says Beijing's dominance in the region puts the world economy at risk.
China does want to go global. It wants to project out of Asia. It wants to wedge apart the U.S. and its allies over time, and we've got to be very mindful about that.
If confirmed, I look forward to working closely with you as our nation pursues peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific, a region rife with challenges. For more than 70 years, the Indo-Pacific has been largely peaceful, in many ways made possible by the commitment of free nations to the free and open international order and underwritten by the credibility of the combat power assigned to U.S. Pacific Command. The National Defense Strategy recognizes that the central challenge to our prosperity and security is the reemergence of long-term strategic competition by revisionist powers. And while China and Russia are the priority in that strategy, immediate challenges by North Korea, Iran, and violent extremists remain. 4 of the 5 of these principal challenges are found in the Indo-Pacific, and the 5th, Iran, has previously operated in the region with an out-of-area deployment to the PACOM AOR. Today, North Korea has rapidly advanced its unlawful nuclear weapon and ballistic missile programs. China continues to improve both the size and the capability of its armed forces and hopes to supplant the United States as the security partner of choice, not just in the Indo-Pacific region, but across the globe. Russia continues to modernize its military in all domains and seeks explicitly to undermine the international order and U.S. security guarantees. Of course, the presence of ISIS in the region is real and highlights the need to continue to confront transnational terrorism in the Pacific as well. The challenges in Pacific Command are genuine. If confirmed, I will work to defend against and deter our adversaries from attacking the United States, our citizens and interests abroad, as well as our allies in the region. I'll work to develop the relationships with our allies and partners in the region, as well as within our own government and across the interagency, in order to help advance peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific, to deliver the readiness necessary to operate wherever international law allows, while at the same time producing a more lethal, improved level of resourcing will ensure our forces can maintain the lethality and readiness required to fight and win when called upon. If confirmed, I look forward to serving alongside the men and women who make up Pacific Command. And again, I look forward to working with this committee as we face these challenges. Senator Inhofe, Senator Reid, distinguished committee members, I pledge to you that I will devote the whole of my energy to ensuring Pacific Command is the most lethal and combat-ready force in our history.
Joshua Walker, who heads global strategic initiatives at the Eurasia Group, says China's interests are both economic and military driven.
If you control that sea lane, it basically breaks up the entire international liberal order that the United States set up after World War II. And what's interesting is U.S. strategy now is trying to link both India and Japan as kind of these main focal points in the Indo-Pacific and bring all of our allies together.
Some say China's economic rise is due in part to a broader leadership void on the world stage.
The people that are moving the needle right now, two of the people moving the needle are Xi Jinping and Putin, and they're the wrong guys as far as I'm concerned.
Last month, Chinese lawmakers voted to abolish presidential term limits, paving the way for President Xi to rule indefinitely. On the heels of his re-election, Russia's President Putin is set to stay in office for the next 6 years.
I think it's incredibly important to deal with China across the whole of our government. I intend to work closely with the State Department and across the interagency and with this body as well to work on those issues. Additionally, it's very, very important to have a network of allies and partners with us on this journey. As I mentioned, the free and open international order has been dependent upon free nations working together in that regard. And I intend to work those allies and partners quite vigorously in the Pacific.
Those artificial islands in the South China Sea, why is China building those islands?
China has long claimed the South China Sea as their own. It is my belief that they intend to establish the military structure that will help them control the air and sea lanes through that region of the world.
Do you have any doubt that despite their militarization of those islands, that the United States Navy and Air Force can keep those lines of communications open through the South China Sea?
It is our job, yes, sir.
And how much do those islands raise the stakes for our partnership with countries on the littoral of the sea, like Vietnam and the Philippines, Malaysia, Australia, Taiwan?
Well, I think it makes it troubling. Their security relationships with us are very, very important to us and also important to their security. These islands are in areas in which there are conflicting claims. And while we take no position on how that's resolved, we do expect to see them resolved with mutual consent and as international law allows. And I think it's creating uncertainty amongst our partners and allies in that area.
I might have missed it earlier if it was discussed, but talk a little bit about U.S.-Vietnam military cooperation. I know we had a carrier visit recently in Vietnam. There's been an increasing desire on behalf of Vietnam to do military cooperation together with the United States, I think largely due to their concerns about Chinese influence in the region. Talk a little bit about how you see that relationship on the mill-to-mill side going forward.
Yeah, the carrier visit was quite historic, and we're in discussions with Vietnam. I think a high-endurance cutter we're going to transfer to them under the Foreign Military Sales Act. We've been working with Vietnam on the code of conduct for operations at sea, which I think is an important opportunity to build on, might raise some confidence in the security amongst the South China Sea rim nations. I think this is an incredible opportunity for us.
One last question for you, and then a question for General O'Shaughnessy. You are coming from fleet forces, so you've been experienced in trying to find a balance between the need to the working of our people and overworking of our people in the combatant commander request. Now you've been on the other side as a combatant commander. How will your fleet forces background give you the ability to sort of manage what the appropriate workload is for a part of the world that has significant demands right now?
Yes, sir. I think my experience there will be important. The operations of forces, has to take into account the readiness and preparedness of those forces. And as we look to the new national defense strategy, trying to balance what we maintain forward with our ability to generate the readiness, the capability, the training, all of that goes into high-end warfare is incredibly important. I'm going to have to help seek that balance.
Great. Thank
if
you.
I'm confirmed.